The message arrived during the darkest hours of Earth's night. Admiral James Stone stood motionless before the giant display screen, his weathered face illuminated by the harsh glow of emergency alerts. The colony on New Hope had gone dark. Not just communications blackout. Everything was gone. 8,000 settlers, 3 research stations, and humanity's most advanced agricultural development center all vanished in less than an hour. He knew exactly who was responsible. The weapon signatures were unmistakable. Council-grade plasma cannons, the kind that the civilized species claimed were too advanced to share with humanity. The same weapons that were supposedly under strict control and couldn't possibly fall into the hands of pirates. Stone's hands curled into fists as he remembered the council representative's condescending smile from just last week. "My dear Admiral, humanity simply isn't ready for such technology. Give it another century or two. You understand, of course." The same excuse they'd been hearing for 200 years. The emergency channel crackled to life. A lone survivor's message, broadcast from a hidden bunker on New Hope. The young colony guard's voice shook as he described the attack. "They knew exactly where to hit us. They had our defense codes. They were laughing, sir. Said it was time to remind the monkeys of their place." Stone's jaw tightened. He'd spent 30 years preaching patience to the hawks in Earth's military. "Play their game," he'd said. "Show them we can be diplomatic. Prove we're civilized." Now 8,000 people were dead because of that patience. He opened a secure channel to Earth's hidden shipyards in the Oort cloud. The projects they'd been working on in secret, away from the Council's prying eyes, were about to become a lot more important. "Colonel Baker, initiate Project Prometheus. Authorization code. Enough is enough." "Sir?" Baker's voice carried a mix of surprise and anticipation. "Are you sure? Once we start." "They hit New Hope, Colonel. Used Council weapons. 8,000 dead." A long pause. "I'll wake the engineering teams. We'll have the first batch of quantum drives ready in 6 months. Make it 3. "Yes, sir." "And sir, the Council observers at Jupiter Station are requesting permission to inspect our response fleet." Stone allowed himself a small, grim smile. "Let them inspect. They'll only see what we want them to see. Old ships, outdated weapons. Let them think we're rushing to defend ourselves with sticks and stones." He turned to his personal eye, another piece of technology the Council claimed humans weren't ready to develop. "Adam, begin Operation Ghost Protocol. Transfer all critical research data to the Luna backup servers. And get me a secure line to the Orion Alliance." "The other primitive species, sir." The AI's voice carried no judgment, just quiet understanding. "Yes, it's time they knew they weren't alone in being held back. The Regellians, the Centaurians, the Proxima Collective. Contact them all." Quietly. Stone walked to his office window, looking out at the glittering expanse of human civilization that spread across the lunar surface. 2 centuries of being patronized, held back, and treated like children playing with matches. 2 centuries of watching their people die because they weren't ready for proper defense technology. His comm unit beeped. The Council was calling an emergency session about the New Hope attack. They would express their deep concerns, offer meaningless condolences, and promise to investigate. The same response they'd given after the Terra Nova massacre, the Europa sabotage, and a dozen other unfortunate incidents. "Tell them I'll be there," Stone told his aide. "Tell them Earth appreciates their prompt attention to this tragedy." He turned back to the window, his reflection hard and determined in the reinforced glass. The Council thought they knew humanity. They'd studied Earth's history, analyzed their conflicts, measured their technology. But they'd missed something crucial. They'd never truly understood what happened when humanity's patience finally ran out. The quantum drives would be ready in 3 months. The new weapon systems in 4. The stealth fleet in 5. And then, after 200 years of playing the obedient junior species, Humanity would show the galaxy why their ancestors had survived ice ages, plagues, and their own warlike nature to reach the stars. The Council had forgotten an old Earth saying, "Beware the fury of a patient man." Stone smiled. They were about to remember it. Captain Mark Reed watched through the observation deck as another shipment of mining equipment passed through the asteroid belt's shadow. The massive containers, officially bound for the ice mines of Europa, would never reach their listed destination. Instead, they would vanish into one of humanity's hidden shipyards, scattered across thousands of supposedly empty systems. He checked his secure tablet. 3 more shipments today, all following different routes to avoid detection. The Council's patrol ships never looked twice at human mining vessels. After all, what could the primitive humans possibly hide in their crude industrial equipment? "Sir," his second-in-command whispered, "the Rigelian contact is ready for the meeting." Reed nodded and walked to the secure conference room. The air shimmered as he passed through multiple layers of quantum encryption fields, technology that the Council insisted was centuries beyond human understanding. The hologram that appeared showed a tall, crystalline being, its faceted surface reflecting light in complex patterns. "The Council inspected our main shipyards yesterday," Reed said without preamble. "They were very pleased to see our outdated fusion drives and chemical weapons." The Rigelian's crystal surface flickered with amusement. "They visited our world last week, expressed great concern about our primitive plasma containment systems." A pause. "They didn't find the quantum forge you sent us." "Good. How's production?" "Better than expected. Your designs are elegant, simple but powerful. We've completed the first batch of shield disruptors. The Centaurians are ready with the targeting systems, and the Proxima Collective has finished the stealth generators." Reed allowed himself a small smile. Every primitive species had been developing their own technologies in secret, waiting for a chance to break free. Now, working together, they were building something the Council couldn't imagine: weapons and defenses that didn't follow the normal rules of space warfare. His tablet beeped. Another message from Earth Command. More Council ships had been spotted near the outer colonies, protecting human worlds from pirates. The same pirates who somehow always had Council weapons and Council codes. "They're getting nervous," the Rigelian observed. "They sense something's changing, but can't quite see what it is." "Let them worry." Reed opened a secure file on his tablet. "We've finished the new quantum drives. No radiation signature, no subspace ripples. As far as their sensors are concerned, our ships simply cease to exist." "How many vessels are ready?" "Enough." Reed's voice was hard. "We're not playing their game anymore. No showing off our fleet strength. No parading our weapons. When we move, they won't know what hit them." The door chimed, and another officer entered with a fresh report. The Council was calling for increased inspections of all developing species shipyards. They cited concerns about unauthorized technological development and dangerous experimentation. "Right on schedule," Reed muttered. "They always crack down harder when they're scared." He turned back to the Rigelian. "Speed up production. They'll start getting more aggressive soon." The crystalline being's surface darkened. "The Council destroyed one of our research outposts last cycle. Claimed it was an accident during a training exercise." "New Hope wasn't the first," Reed agreed. "And it won't be the last. But it will be remembered as the moment everything changed." He checked the security feeds showing the hidden shipyards. Row after row of sleek warships, their hulls black as space itself, waited in the darkness. Not a single design matched known human capabilities. "The Council thinks they know us," he continued. "They've studied our wars, our victories, our defeats. They think they understand human nature." He smiled, but there was no warmth in it. "They don't realize that humanity's greatest advances always came when someone told us something was impossible." The Rigelian's crystal surface pulsed with agreement. "How long until everything is ready?" Reed looked at the latest reports from the hidden factories and secret labs scattered across human space. Quantum weapons that could bypass any known shield. stealth systems that bent light and space itself, drives that could cross the galaxy in days instead of weeks. Soon, he said softly. Very soon. The Council keeps waiting for us to make noise, to pound our chests, and show off our strength like angry primitives. He watched another convoy of mining ships disappear into the darkness. They never considered that we might learn to be quiet. The real weapon, Reed knew, wasn't the ships or the quantum drives or even the advanced AI they'd developed in secret. It was patience. The patience to wait, to prepare, to let your enemy think they know exactly what you're capable of. And humanity's patience was finally running out. Lisa Walker sat in the Grand Council chamber, wearing her most convincing look of concern as she listened to the high-speaker drone on about trade irregularities. Her official title was Human Trade Representative, but her real job was to make sure the Council looked exactly where she wanted them to look. The human mining vessels seemed to be taking unusual routes, the high speaker said, his 4 eyes fixed on her. Most inefficient, most concerning. Perhaps your species needs assistance with navigation. You're too kind, Lisa replied, letting just the right amount of embarrassment color her voice. We've had some problems with our old navigation computers. You know how it is with primitive technology. She gave a helpless shrug that she'd practiced for hours. The Council members exchanged knowing looks. Humans and their crude machines, always getting lost in space. How did they even make it off their planet? Lisa checked her datapad, making sure they could see her struggling with its outdated interface. More reports were coming in about human ships behaving strangely, taking long routes between colonies, disappearing from sensors for hours at a time. All exactly according to plan. And there's the matter of your diplomatic corps, another council member added. 7 human diplomats have resigned in the past month, citing health concerns. The being's tentacles waved in what might have been suspicion. Space travel is hard on human bodies, Lisa said, her voice carefully apologetic. We're still adapting to long-term exposure. Perhaps in a few centuries, we'll be more resilient. She knew they'd love that, humans admitting their physical weakness. After the meeting, she walked through the council station's grand corridors, passing elaborate artworks celebrating the council's long history of guiding younger species. Her neural implant, hidden from all known scanning methods, sent a steady stream of data back to Earth Command. Every conversation, every suspicious glance, every whispered concern about human behavior was recorded and analyzed. Her comm unit chimed, a message from her doctors back on Earth. As she read it, her hands shook slightly, making sure the council's surveillance picked up her distress. Another diplomat would resign tomorrow, citing mysterious health problems. The council's medical experts would examine the data, feel superior about their own species' hardiness, and completely miss what was really happening. In her private quarters, Lisa accessed the quantum-encrypted channel hidden inside her primitive computer. The real reports scrolled past her eyes. The new fleet was almost ready. The weapons tests had exceeded all expectations. The alliances with other oppressed species were growing stronger every day. A light flashed on her screen. Council investigators were doing another scan of the human sector, right on schedule. They'd find exactly what she'd left for them. Outdated defense plans, crude weapon designs, and official reports full of carefully crafted errors that painted a picture of a struggling, technologically backward species. How are our friends enjoying the show? Admiral Stone's voice came through her secure channel. They're worried about our inefficient trade routes, Lisa said, allowing herself a small smile. Apparently, we're wasting fuel by taking the long way around star systems. If they only knew what those ships were really carrying. Stone paused. The Regellians sent word. Their quantum forge is working better than expected. The Centaurians have finished the targeting systems. Even the Proxima Collective is ahead of schedule. The Council's getting nervous, Lisa reported. They can sense something's wrong but can't figure out what. They've increased surveillance on all developing species. Good. Let them look. They'll only see what we want them to see. Stone's voice hardened. How are the withdrawal symptoms? Lisa glanced at her hands, which she'd allowed to develop a slight tremor over the past week. Very convincing. The Council's doctors are fascinated by how space travel affects human health. They're writing papers about our species' physical limitations. Keep them focused on that. The more they think we're struggling with basic space travel, the less they'll look for what we're really doing. Stone went quiet for a moment. The quantum weapons test was successful. 20 seconds to bypass their strongest shields. Lisa's smile faded. After the attack on New Hope, after watching the Council dismiss thousands of human deaths as an unfortunate piracy incident, this deception had become more than just a mission. It was justice in the making. How much longer? She asked. Not long now. Everything's almost in place. Stone's voice carried the weight of 200 years of human patience. Keep them distracted. Keep them confident. Keep them thinking they know exactly what humanity is capable of. And then we show them what happens when humanity finally stops pretending. Commander Thomas Gray stood at the entrance of the Ganymede Research Station, watching as 3 Council ships descended through Jupiter's orange-tinted sky. Their sleek hulls gleamed with barely hidden weapons, far too many for a simple inspection visit. He'd been expecting this, but not so soon. This facility is closed for maintenance. He broadcast on an open channel, keeping his voice steady and tired-sounding. We're dealing with some radiation leaks from our crude fission reactors. Probably best to come back next week. The Council ships continued their approach. A cold voice responded. This is Senior Inspector Vall of the Council's Security Force. We have reports of unauthorized technology development. Your facility will be inspected immediately. Gray sighed, making sure they could hear it. Inspector, we're having trouble with our containment fields. It's not safe for your people to. Your primitive radiation is no concern. We have superior protection. The lead ship was close enough now that Gray could see the weapon ports sliding open. You have 10 minutes to open your hangar, or we will enter by force. The Council has grown tired of human excuses. Gray pressed his hand against the wall panel, feeling the subtle vibration of machinery far below the surface. Not the simple fission reactors they'd let the Council discover, but something far more advanced. Something that would change everything if they found it. Inspector, he tried one last time. This is a sovereign human facility. You have no authority to. The first shot cut through the station's outer defense screen like it wasn't there. Alarms blared as atmosphere vented from one of the upper levels. Gray heard screams over the internal comm as his people rushed to seal the breach. That was a warning, Vall announced. The next one goes through your main reactor. Open your doors, Commander. Gray's fingers tightened on the panel. 300 scientists and engineers worked in this facility. 300 people working on humanity's future. He could save them by opening the doors. But if he did, if he let the Council see what they'd been developing. Another shot rocked the station. Warning lights flashed as more systems took damage. The Council ships were systematically taking apart their outer defenses. Last warning, Commander. The Council's patience with human defiance has reached its limit. Gray opened a secure channel to Earth Command. They're here. 3 ships. They're not pretending this is a routine inspection anymore. Admiral Stone's voice came back instantly. How long can you hold them off? Maybe 5 minutes. We're showing them exactly what they expect. Weak shields, basic weapons. But sir, Gray watched as another shot punched through their defenses. We've got 300 people here. If I don't let them in. A long pause. You know what they'll find if they get inside. Gray closed his eyes. Below his feet, hidden behind layers of quantum shielding, sat humanity's greatest technological achievements. Weapons that could reshape space itself. Drives that could cross galaxies in days. Power sources that made fusion look like a child's toy. I know, sir, but these are my people. Another shot. Another breach. More screams. Hold as long as you can. Stone ordered. Help is coming. But Gray could hear the lie in his voice. No help could reach them in time, not without revealing capabilities they couldn't afford to show. Not yet. Open your doors immediately, Vol demanded. This is your final chance. Gray looked at the faces of his crew on the security feeds. Scientists, engineers, dreamers who'd built the future in secret. They looked back at him, and he saw in their eyes that they understood. They'd always known this day might come. Go to hell, Gray broadcast back. The council ships opened fire with everything they had. The station's outer shell cracked like an egg, venting atmosphere and debris into space. Emergency bulkheads slammed shut as entire sections depressurized. In his last transmission to Earth, just before the main reactor was hit, Gray's voice was calm. Tell them we did our best. Tell them we kept the secret. Tell them. The explosion lit up Jupiter's sky like a new sun. 300 lives ended in an instant, taking humanity's greatest achievements with them to protect an even greater secret. The fact that those achievements had already been copied to facilities across human space. In his office on Earth, Admiral Stone watched the light fade from Jupiter's orbit. His voice, when he finally spoke, carried 2 centuries of rage in 4 simple words. Now we stop pretending. The Grand Council chamber fell silent as Admiral James Stone walked to the speaker's platform. No human had ever dared to call an emergency session of the full council before. The great curved walls, lined with representatives from 1,000 species, looked down at him with a mixture of annoyance and amusement. The High Speaker's 4 eyes blinked slowly. The human delegation is recognized. Though we must protest the irregular nature of this gathering. Stone stood straight, his simple blue uniform a stark contrast to the elaborate robes around him. 3 days ago, Council ships attacked a human research facility on Ganymede. 300 scientists died. An unfortunate incident, the High Speaker waved a tentacle dismissively. The facility was suspected of illegal weapons development when your commander refused inspection. I'm not finished. Stone's voice cut through the chamber like a blade. Several council members shifted uncomfortably. No one interrupted the High Speaker. For 200 years, humanity has played by your rules. We accepted your restrictions. We smiled at your condescension. We watched our people die because you claimed we weren't ready for proper defensive technology. He pressed a button on his datapad. The chamber's massive display screens came to life, showing images that made several council members rise from their seats in alarm. Security logs from New Hope Colony. Council-grade weapons used by pirates who knew our defense codes. Footage from the Terra Nova massacre, the Europa sabotage, and now Ganymede. Stone's voice grew colder with each word. 200 years of evidence. 200 years of watching you keep humanity and others in chains. These are serious accusations, another council member spoke up. But surely you understand the need to guide younger species, to prevent them from developing too quickly. Stone smiled, but it didn't reach his eyes. Guide us. Let me show you how well your guidance worked. More images appeared on the screens. Hidden shipyards filled with advanced vessels. Quantum weapons that shouldn't exist. Power sources that defied known physics. The council chamber erupted in shocked murmurs. Impossible, the High Speaker declared. These must be fabrications. Human technology cannot. Stone laughed, and the sound made several council members flinch. You never understood us at all, did you? Every time you said we couldn't do something, we took it as a challenge. Every restriction became a puzzle to solve. Every patronizing denial pushed us to work harder. He touched his datapad again. Around the chamber, holographic displays sprang to life, but not using council technology. The images were sharper, clearer, using principles the council had never imagined. We built these in secret, along with our allies. The other species you've been keeping down, the Rigelians, the Centaurians, the Proxima Collective. While you watched our public shipyards build outdated ships, we created things your science said were impossible. The High Speaker's skin had turned a pale shade of gray. If these images are real, you have violated dozens of council laws. The penalties. The penalties. Stone's voice rose for the first time. You just murdered 300 of our best and brightest. You've killed thousands of our people over the years. And you dare to talk about penalties. He straightened his uniform. Humanity hereby demands the immediate resignation of the current council leadership. We demand unrestricted access to all technological developments. We demand reparations for 2 centuries of deliberate suppression. You have 1 hour to comply. Laughter erupted from several council members. The High Speaker's color returned. Or what, Admiral? You'll attack us with your primitive weapons. Perhaps throw rocks at our ships. Stone's smile returned, colder than ever. We tried patience, he said quietly. We tried diplomacy. We tried peace. Now we'll try it our way. He turned to leave the chamber. 1 hour. Then humanity stops pretending to be what you think we are. You cannot threaten this council, the High Speaker roared. If you leave this chamber, if you dare to challenge our authority, we will have no choice but to respond with full military force. Stone paused at the door. I know. His voice carried 200 years of accumulated rage, tempered by patience into something far more dangerous than mere anger. We're counting on it. As he walked away, his neural implant sent the signal that humanity had waited so long to give. Across council space, sleeper cells of humans and their allies began activating. Hidden fleets powered up their quantum drives. Weapons the council couldn't detect locked onto targets they couldn't defend. Humanity's patience had finally run out, and the galaxy was about to learn why that was terrifying. The council's military command center erupted in chaos as alarms blared across every screen. Ships were appearing out of nowhere, hundreds of them, thousands, materializing inside defensive perimeters that had been considered impenetrable. But that was impossible. The humans couldn't have that many ships, and nothing could bypass quantum shields. The High Commander of the Council fleet stared in disbelief as reports flooded in from across Council space. Status report. Now. Sir, we're detecting human vessels in every major system. A junior officer's tentacles twisted in panic. They're already past our outer defenses. Impossible. Launch the defense fleet. All ships. Show these primitives what real warships can do. The mighty Council Armada, pride of the galaxy's ruling species, moved to engage. Their weapons powered up, their shields humming with enough energy to shatter planets. They had the numbers, the technology, the experience of 1,000 victories. None of it mattered. The human ships didn't behave like ships at all. They twisted space itself, appearing and disappearing at will. Council weapons passed through them like they weren't there. Council shields might as well have been paper for all the protection they offered. Sir, another officer called out, the Regellians are attacking our supply bases. The Centaurians have disabled our communication hubs. The Proxima Collective. They're inside our computer systems. The High Commander watched in horror as 2 centuries of carefully maintained military superiority crumbled in minutes. Every primitive species the Council had suppressed was rising up, using technology that shouldn't exist, strategies that defied conventional warfare. On the command ship's main screen, Admiral Stone's face appeared. He looked tired but satisfied. Your hour is up. I see you chose to respond with force, just as we expected. This is impossible, the High Commander sputtered. Your species, you're not capable of this level of technology. No, Stone agreed. According to your studies, your predictions, your carefully maintained databases, we're not. That was the point. You were so convinced of your superiority that you never considered we might be lying. That we might spend 2 centuries letting you see exactly what you expected to see. Reports continued to pour in. Council shipyards were disabled by weapons that ignored their defenses. Defense stations went dark as their power systems simply stopped working. And everywhere, human ships moved like ghosts through space, untouchable, unstoppable. The humans you thought you knew don't exist, Stone continued. They never did. We showed you what you wanted to see. Angry primitives playing with technology we barely understood. Meanwhile, we built something you never imagined. A massive explosion lit up the space behind the command ship. The Council's primary fleet base, home to a quarter of their military might, vanished in a flash of quantum fire. Your weapons, the High Commander's voice shook. This violates every law of physics. Stone's smile was cold. Your laws of physics. We found others. His expression hardened. You could have been our teachers, our allies. Instead, you chose to be our jailers. And now you're learning what humans do to chains. The Council's mighty capital station, symbol of their power for 10,000 years, went dark as its quantum core simply ceased to exist. Backup systems failed. Defense grids collapsed. In 6 hours, the greatest military force the galaxy had ever known was reduced to scattered, powerless ships floating in space. Humanity remembers its friends, Stone broadcast on all frequencies, and its enemies. The species who stood with us, who suffered under Council rule, are now our allies. Together, we're going to build something new, something better. He paused, looking directly at the High Commander. But first, we're going to dismantle everything you built. Every restriction, every suppression field, every piece of technology you kept for yourselves. The age of the Council is over. Around the galaxy, oppressed species rose up against their former masters. Technologies the Council had banned for centuries emerged from hidden labs and secret facilities. The careful order they had maintained through force and fear dissolved in hours. The High Commander watched his empire crumble and finally understood. The humans hadn't just been planning a rebellion. They'd been planning a revolution. And they'd spent 200 years making sure it would succeed in a single day. Humanity's patience had run out, and the galaxy would never be the same. 1 year had passed since the day humanity's patience ran out. The Grand Council chamber, once a monument to oppression, now served a different purpose. Admiral Stone walked its curved halls, noting how the simple banners of the Free Species Alliance had replaced the Council's elaborate decorations. A small figure bumped into his legs, a young Regellian child, its crystal surface still soft and growing. In its hands, it held a quantum tablet, technology that would have been forbidden just a year ago. "Sorry, sir." The child's surface flickered with embarrassment. "I was reading about human history. Is it true you pretended to be primitive just to fool the Council?" Stone smiled, kneeling down to the child's level. "We did. For 200 years. Would you like to know why?" The child's crystal surface brightened with curiosity. "Yes, please." "Because sometimes the best way to become strong is to let others think you're weak. The Council was so busy making sure we stayed down that they never noticed us learning to fly." A group of Centaurian engineers passed by, discussing quantum mechanics with human scientists. Behind them, a Proxima collective administrator shared data with a Regellian trade delegate. Species that had once been kept apart by Council decree now worked together openly. Stone's comm unit buzzed. Commander Gray's widow was calling from the new Ganymede Memorial. The facility built to honor those who died keeping humanity's secrets now served as a public research center. Scientists from all species worked there, sharing knowledge that had once been restricted. "The trial broadcasts are ready," she reported. "Will you make the opening statement?" Stone nodded. The Council's former leadership would face justice for their crimes, not revenge. Humanity had waited too long and planned too carefully to stoop to that, but there would be accountability. In the chamber's main hall, representatives from 50 former primitive species gathered for the daily session. No more elaborate robes or symbols of rank. No more artificial hierarchies. Ideas were judged on their merit, not their source. "The human delegation is recognized," announced the speaker, a Centaurian who had once been classified as too primitive to leave their home system. "Report on the technology sharing initiative." Stone stepped to the podium. "Phase 1 is complete. The quantum drives have been distributed to all member species. The suppression fields that kept some worlds trapped in their own systems are gone. The stars belong to everyone now. Applause filled the chamber, not the polite, measured applause of the old council, but genuine celebration. On the massive screens behind him, feeds showed ships of all designs moving freely through space, schools where children of different species learned together, research stations where centuries of restricted knowledge was finally being shared. There are still challenges, Stone continued. Some former council worlds resist the changes. Some try to maintain the old restrictions, but they're learning what we learned. That strength comes in many forms, and often from unexpected places. He thought of the message they'd received that morning. Another hidden cache of council weapons found. Another plot to restore the old order foiled. The former masters hadn't all accepted their new reality yet, but they would. The Free Species Alliance now includes 97 worlds, he announced, each bringing their own knowledge, their own innovations. Together, we've achieved more in 1 year than the Council permitted in a century. A Proxima collective member raised their appendage. And the human fleet, the weapons that broke the Council's power, dismantled, Stone said firmly. We built them because we had to. We keep enough to defend ourselves, but never to rule. That was the Council's mistake, thinking that having power meant you had to use it to control others. After the session, Stone walked to the observation deck. Earth shone below, beautiful and blue. Around it, ships of all species moved freely, carrying trade, knowledge, and cooperation, where once there had been only restrictions and fear. His neural implant pinged. Another message from the memorial. They'd finished adding the names of those lost at Ganymede, New Hope, and all the other victims of Council oppression. Not forgotten, but honored as the price paid for freedom. A group of young officers, human, Regelian, Centaurian, and others, passed by, talking excitedly about a new form of faster-than-light travel they were developing together. Stone smiled, remembering the long years of pretending not to understand basic physics while secretly pushing its boundaries. The galaxy had learned an important lesson: never mistake patience for weakness, and humanity had learned one too. The best revenge against those who would keep you down is to rise up and build something better than they could imagine. The age of suppression was over. The age of cooperation had begun. And it all started because humanity finally ran out of patience.